Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Quabell.
Aye.
Councilman Levisay.
Aye.
Councilman Fowler.
Aye.
Councilman Carter.
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson.
Aye.
Councilman Bowerman.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
Next, we have the presentation and public hearing on a capital improvement program. Mr. Holly, I think you're going to be giving it tonight.
Your Honor, let me introduce one exhibit here for including City Council Information Form, June 25th, 2012 memo from Jim Holly, Assistant Director of Community Development, June 25th, 2012 Planning Commission minutes, public notice submitted to the Examiner and published on Saturday, June 30th, 2012, and draft capital improvement program document. These are all the exhibits I have to offer on behalf of this public hearing.
All right, Mr. Holly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Before you tonight is the 2012-2013 through 2017-2018 Capital Improvements Program. I'd like to start with some thank yous. First, thank you to council members Fowler, Quabell, and Edmondson for serving on the rating committee this year. Again, very helpful and keeps us knowing that we're headed in the right track. Also like to thank Planning Commissioners Mark Trozen and Ginger Duhan, as well as Parks Commissioner Bill Landrum. And then like to thank, on behalf of myself here, City Administration, Public Works, Parks, Police, and a special thanks to Finance Department. They really put this together. I just kind of collate it and then come up here and make the presentation. So thanks to all of them as well. The CIP is being submitted in accordance with the city's charter. The 2012, 2013, 2017 to 2018 projects and budget are consistent with our past CIP budgets and directives provided by the City Council. Again, this year projects will be grouped by funded projects and unfunded projects. We started that, I think, about 4 years ago and have continued ever since. And the majority of the projects provide either maintenance or rehabilitation. We're not looking for any large new projects right now. We're kind of in a maintenance rehabilitation mode. A few facts about the CIP. The total number of projects proposed in the next 6 years is 75. 26 of those are funded and 49 are unfunded. And as we always say with the unfunded projects, although they are unfunded, we keep them in the CIP in hopes that eventually we will identify funding sources and move these projects forward. This is a project at Ward Park Trail Replacement. If you haven't been to Ward Park, it's a great little park located off of Southwest 22nd Street. And this is a trail project that wraps the park. The projects for the funded CIP in 2012 and 2013 that are carried forward. I won't go through the entire list. I'll just mention a couple of them. The public safety building remodel and construction, BF 18. Of course, that includes last year's CIP with the public safety project included the communications aspect of it. BF 18 is the building remodel and construction of this particular building that we're in tonight. Street rehabilitation program is ahead of projections. I was talking with Dr. DeGreat just before this meeting, and he explained that they currently are at about 104 miles of roadway, and it was anticipated that at this time, at the end of the first 5 years, that we would be at 75, so doing great in that regard. The sidewalk repair and maintenance program, many of you will remember, was started a year ago. We are in the second year of that program. Again, mostly maintenance projects here, and I won't go through the list, but you can see where we stand with those. Quick overview of the budget. This year, the total budget that includes funded and unfunded projects for the 6-year period is approximately $149.4 million. Of that, total funded projects for the 6-year period is $47.6 million, and it represents about 31.8% of the 6-year budget, including both funded and unfunded projects. Total cost of the unfunded projects over the 6-year period is $101.8 million. And this last little fact is projects proposed to be funded for 2012-2013 budget year total is approximately $19.9 million, and it represents 41.8% of the total funded projects for the 6-year CIP. So that excludes the unfunded. That's just talking about funded projects. Some updates and changes for the fiscal year 2012 and 13 to go over. Spoke a little bit about the public safety project, BF18. In April of 2011, the citizens of Blue Springs approved the half-cent sales tax specifically for improvements to the city's public safety services, upgrading our public safety communications system, which was in last year's CIP, and it was Project PSO1. That project is moving forward. If you go out on Colburn Road, you will see that there is a tower that may well be completed as we speak now. Last time I was there, it was about half completed. So that project is moving forward as planned. The renovation and the expansion of the Howard Brown Public Safety Building, the building we're in tonight, BF18 is committed in fiscal year 2012-2013, and the total of both of those projects together is approximately $19.9 million. The 2003 comprehensive plan was originally and has been scheduled for the last few years for the years 2013, 2014. It has been moved up or is being proposed to be moved up for fiscal year 2012, 2013. The last time we completed a comprehensive plan update was in 2003. And as you can see here, in 2004, the area plan was completed. In 2009, there was a minor plan update that basically simply folded the area plan into the 2003 comprehensive plan, and it created a designation for that area that's to be included in the Missouri Innovation Park. So that's what that update was about. Total funding for this particular project is $220,000, and the project would be anticipated to be done obviously during next fiscal year and by September of 2013. CDBG, or Community Development Block Grant Program. In year 2012-2013, this fiscal year, there is no proposed funding for CDBG. And the reason for that is that the consolidated plan proposed to utilize $100,000 for a facade improvement program. And in bold, I want you to note that on page 19 of the capital improvements program document, in the top of the second column, first paragraph, you will see $1 million. It's amazing what a difference a little zero and a comma can make. It is not $1 million. It should be $100,000. This combined with the other programs, and the other programs that we're talking about would be the minor home repair program and the first-time home buyers program, as well as a small amount that goes to Downtown Alive, reduce the CDBG funding to less than $50,000 for fiscal year 2013, or 2013, 2012, 2013, and therefore the projects that would go forward will not be in the capital improvements program. And Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we were talking about roughly 26,000 being remaining in CDBG, 33,000 remaining in CDBG, and those would just go forward with the consolidated plan, primarily probably for sidewalk.
Yeah, when we say we're going 100,000 to zero, I mean, the minor home repair program and the first-time home buyers program is still going on.
Yes.
So how come those numbers wouldn't be reflected in here?
The minor home repair, and those are not capital projects. Please.
Okay, but I thought you said that's where the 100,000 was coming from then.
The 100,000 for the facade improvement program does come out of CDBG funds, and those CDBG funds would typically have been included in the capitals program for things like sidewalk or street lights or improvements of that sort.
Okay.
Capital.
Okay, that's
Just to add clarification to that, there will be $211,000 of CDBG programming in the budget. but because of the way they're being categorized and programmed, they're going to show up in the general fund as opposed to the CIP fund. That's the difference. So all of the programs, including facades, minor home repair program, first-time homebuyers program, they're all going to be in the budget, but they're going to be reflected in the general fund as opposed to the capital fund.
Okay.
Again, then in year 2013, 2014, and continuing through the remaining years of the CIP budget, that $120,000 that's typically been allocated from CDBG will return to the capital improvement program. Annual street and sidewalk rehabilitation program for fiscal year 2012-2013. It provides $2.3 million for street rehabilitation, $200,000 for sidewalk repair. That's exactly what it was in year 2011-2012. Significant change is that in fiscal year 2013-14, the funds for street rehabilitation will provide dollars to complete the Woods Chapel Road Phase 2. I will go into a little more detail on that as we discuss the Woods Chapel Road here in just a minute. But the Phase 2 of Woods Chapel Road is not a portion of the Woods Chapel Road project that is funded through the bonds. That will be funded partially through a grant and then partially through a city match. And then in fiscal year 2014 and 15, through the remaining years of the CIP, it reestablishes the funding for ST06, which is the street rehabilitation program, at $2.3 million. Total funding for street rehab in this capital improvements program is supposed to be $11.5 million, and for sidewalk rehabilitation, it is $1.2 million. Woods Chapel Road, a long-awaited project in Blue Springs. Ever since I've gotten to Blue Springs, I have heard about Woods Chapel Road, and we are finally working on Woods Chapel Road. If you've been out there, you've probably seen some of this. The barriers and the moving of dirt, it's finally happening. Utility relocation, this happens to be to the east of Woods Chapel Road along what used to be the entrance to Blue Springs Ford Repair Services. It will become the extension to the South Outer Road leading into Woods Chapel Road, and this was part of the utility relocation. Woods Chapel Road at this point are on schedule with the great weather that we're having. Things are moving pretty quickly. Construction began for this project in this current fiscal year, 2011-2012, and it will continue through 2013-2014. The current plan has consolidated 3 phases of the project into one, and that project is ST19. That is the project that is bond funded. Then there is a separate project that takes it from Briarwood, Castle Drive to Walnut Street. In the CIP, it's listed as ST29. That is the project that is not funded by bond. That, however, will be funded with a matching grant from Mark. They are providing, I'm going to round numbers off, they are providing roughly $3 million, and the city will be matching that grant amount to complete that section of Woods Chapel Road. The approximate remaining budget for the 2 projects is about $8 million. And speaking of bond projects, you will remember that in 2010-2011, we did the extension of Moreland School Road, heavily traveled thoroughfare now, and really came out nice. This year, in 2011-2012, we completed, when I say we, I should say Dr. Great and his staff completed the intersection of Southwest 7 and Colburn Road, and if you haven't been out there, well worth taking a look at. It's a pretty impressive project. And so I think there's a great track record going on there, and I know everybody in the community is really looking forward to the Woods Chapel project, and it's nice to see that moving forward. The Tri-County Feed Line, Phase 2. This project replaces what was in last year's CIP as the Pink Hill Reservoir Feed Loop, WA09. The Pink Hill Feed Loop project was anticipated originally based on increased development, particularly in the north end. In 2008, when that increased development really slowed down and continues to be slow, Public Works started to think about what project would best benefit the city of Blue Springs. And at this point, the Tri-County Feed Line project is a project that provides a trunk line along Northeast Jefferson to a 16-inch transmission main located on Adamsbury Parkway. And this feed line will allow access to about 5 million gallons of water per day, if necessary. Its cost is approximately $1.2 million, and one of the things that this extension does, and one of the reasons it was weighted heavily, besides just the fact that development has slowed down so much that it really wasn't warranting the Pink Hill Feed Loop, is that this allows the city to be a little less reliant on Kansas City water, where we have absolutely really no say in rates, and a little more dependent upon Tri-County, where because of our relationship with Tri-County and the potential future relationship, we have the possibility of having some say in the rate control. So eventually this project is considered quite important. The AA Highway Lift Station abandonment is a project that I think it was 3 years ago was a funded project in the CIP. 2 years ago we took it out of the CIP because it wasn't at that particular point, juncture in time, it wasn't deemed to be as critical. This year we've proposed to put it back in the CIP. It involves the construction of an 8-inch gravity sewer line. And as you all are probably aware, gravity sewer lines are the preferred method, much less maintenance and long-term cost efficiencies to get rid of that lift station. So it's being proposed to be removed. Proposed new projects. There weren't many new projects this year. There were only 3. One of them was being proposed in the funded section, and 2 are being proposed for the unfunded section. Northeast Napoleon Drive is the project that was included in the funded, or is being proposed to be included in the funded projects. It's the construction of about the first 800 linear feet of Northeast Napoleon east of Adamsbury Parkway. The construction is required as part of the purchase agreement for the land within the Missouri Innovation Park. It is the catalyst for future development within the MIP. The approximate cost is $800,000. That's being divided into 2 years, $400,000 in 2012-2013, and an additional $400,000 in 2013-14. The 2 projects that are being proposed in the unfunded section of the CIP, certainly projects that we know eventually we will need to consider for funding. One is the Public Works Asset Management Software. This would update the department's current asset managed software and move towards a web-based system. The funding for this particular project is currently being looked at a combination of the general fund, the water, and the sewer funds. A portion of the funding will be dependent on yet to be completed water and sewer rate study. The approximate cost is $195,000, and it should be noted that the current system that we're using, the providers, because of the age, no longer provide updates to that system, nor maintenance, so it's all on us right now. PR 43, the Gregory O. Grounds Park signage Phase 1. Certainly, as you all know, is a key park in the development of the northeast corridor of Blue Springs. Right now, there isn't any wayfinding signage within the park. There are some Department of Conservation signs, but nothing that really along the trail. The signage plan includes 5 trail markers, 2 secondary identification signs of vehicular direction, 2 interpretive maps, and 1 interpretive map of the lake in combination with the MDC, and lockable cabinet signs. Approximate cost is $70,000, and it was one of the questions that was brought up at the Planning Commission. They thought that seemed like a high number. We explained to them that when we're talking about these signs, first off, these signs are really signature type signs. They're not as much your MDC type signs, because it is a signature park in that part of town. And it does include a large monument entrance sign, as well as the signs noted on there. And with that, we will turn it over to questions or any comments. Certainly, staff is available for you.
Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Holly?
If I may.
Yes.
And it's just a comment, and it's on the PR 43, the signage Phase 1 at Great Grounds Park. And it's just that park's been around a long time, and I know we've had some issues with signage before and that, and it just seems to me that we have a signage department within the city, and why we couldn't come up with some sort of signage out of that park as opposed to letting it sit there with no signage whatsoever, because we're waiting on $70,000 to do some, and I don't want to say grand, but I mean some really nice signage, which I understand takes, it takes cabinets, it takes lighting, it takes footing and all that. But the citizens are going out there, there's walking trails. I mean, we could come back and do this stuff internally and at least get some sort of signage out there at a fairly low cost that the citizens could benefit, instead of sitting around waiting till we get this pot of gold to do the grand thing. So that's my only comment. It's been one of those things that's been bugging me for a long time out there. We just seem to drag our feet waiting for that pot of gold so we can do something really nice, when we can do something temporary and then come back and replace it when we got the money and do something nice. Just my comment on that one.
Very good. Staff, take that on advisement and take a look at it and see what we can do.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. I think we're always very sensitive about putting projects or programs into place where we know we're going to come back later and replace them. We don't want to appear as though we're wasting our resources, but certainly your point's well made. And Councilman, I will get with our sign department and see what we can work up and see if there's a temporary solution that would be beneficial to our citizens. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Councilman Levison?
I hate to put Mr. DeGreat on the spot here, but looking over the sidewalk program, since we are at a year, I thought it might be a good time. Do you have any update on what kind of success or progress that the program has had since we've been doing it this past year?
Yeah, we can have Chris Sandy, who's in charge of that portion of the project.
Good evening, Mayor,
Yes.
Councilman. At this point, as we'd said along in the inception, we didn't really plan on starting that project until this summer, which we have started. We are focusing on the schools within the district, or within the city, not within the district. And then we also have a component for commercial areas. Lucy Franklin Elementary is one of the start points for the project, which we're actually working on this week. We're also working on James Lewis Elementary and working our way through. Hope to have the money spent by October 1st. We may run just a little bit over with the weather being the way it is and the heat, trying to be a little bit judicious placing concrete.
So even though we're in the second year of funding, we're just now kind of rolling out the actual.
Well, this is
physical.
actually the first year of funding. The council approved it in last year, the concept for the city to take over the sidewalks. And so this is actually our first year of actually applying money to the project.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions?
Yes,
Councilman Covell?
I just wanted to thank Jim and the staff that worked on all of this and compliment you on what a good job you did putting the information together, and also thank you for the opportunity to serve on the committee.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? If not, Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, just a couple of things I want to point out to you. First of all, again, thank you to the members of the council, planning commissioners, and other stakeholders who help us evaluate and prepare our CIP annually. As I like to say every year, this is a working document. Although we plan for 6 years, our goal is to give you a balanced CIP that we can reasonably fund during that 7-year period, and so during the 6-year period. And so for that 6-year period, we're looking at approximately $47 million. We really focus in on the next 2 years. It's difficult to project where our revenue sources are going to be 6 years out. As you know, funding sources come from sales tax, that come from property taxes, grants, or other sources of funds that come into this. A very specific change that I know is near and dear to you, and you're obviously very concerned about, is what we're proposing to do in 2014 by redirecting our street maintenance funds to support the project on Woods Chapel. Mr. Holly indicated we are going to be receiving a substantial grant for that project that would essentially be from the railroad tracks down to Walnut. And we have reallocated or are proposing to reallocate street maintenance funds that would allow us to do that. I do want to point out on Figure 7 and page 22 of your CIP document, it's a change that we're going to need to make, and I just want to make you aware of it. At this point in time, we are eliminating the street rehabilitation program funds of $2.3 million, but we're also at this point in time going to be needing the sidewalk funds as well, and that's $200,000. So right now we're showing the $200,000 funded, but we will need that money to help make the match for the Woods Chapel Walnut Street project. In fact, we'll still be looking for $600,000 of additional funds to help close the gap on that. And we're hopeful that revenues will come in stronger, that there will be some ways that we can help close that gap. But I wanted to point that out to you. Also, I want to just commend Oliver and his staff for the great job they do on managing our water and sewer infrastructure in this community. We are going through an extremely hot and dry time, as all of you are aware of. We're using in the neighborhood of about 7 million gallons of water a day. Is that correct, Chris? We have capacity of approximately 9 million, give or take. We have 3 water suppliers, City of Kansas City, Independence, and Tri-County. Our staff has evaluated our long-term needs, and they've made a strategic decision that we should be attempting to move away from the City of Kansas City, who's been a very good partner with us for all of these years, and that we should focus more intently on Tri-County. That's why you're seeing a change in the water fund and the proposed to do the Tri-County feed line. It will give us, in our opinion, greater reliability, consistency, and in fact a greater opportunity to influence and impact some of our long-term rates for our customers. When we don't have a seat on the board, or when similar to Little Blue Valley Mayor, and we don't have an opportunity to have input under those projects, somebody says, here's the bill, you need to pay it. So we're trying to be very proactive, and I just want to compliment Oliver and his staff for doing a good job on that. And then finally, the one thing that isn't showing up in the CIP right now, as you're aware, for the last 90 days, give or take, we've had a number of discussions with the opportunity for redevelopment project involving White Oak. And the White Oak redevelopment project would potentially relate to a possible rec center or community center. Staff, we're uncertain what the status of that project is at this point in time and whether or not that's going to go forward. But what has come to light during the last 90 days is that there is interest, or seems to be interest, in city staff completing a feasibility study of a community rec center. The mayor's been very vocal about the rec center being a priority for his tenure over the next 4 years. In order for us and staff to be very diligent in preparing and planning for a possible opportunity that might come along, whether it's White Oak or some other location in the city, we need to allocate funds to conduct that feasibility study. That has a price tag of approximately $75,000. That's not reflected in this CIP because at the time we were going through that analysis, it didn't line up with the needs of the CIP and the process at that time. When I bring the submitted budget to you on August the 1st, I'm going to be proposing that we allocate $75,000 to complete that feasibility study, which will have a shelf life, we believe, of anywhere from 3 to 6 years. So if we're not able to act immediately, we still are able to use the data and the information that we gather from that study that will help us plan 3, 4, 5, 6 years into the future if that opportunity presents itself. So it's not reflected in here, but I just wanted to make you aware I'm going to be bringing that forward with my submitted budget. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions, comments? If not, we're going to take it to the public, or those, or there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of the CIP? In favor of? In opposition to? In opposition to? We'll close this public hearing. Would anyone like to introduce it?
I'll introduce it, Your Honor.
First reading of Bill Number 4225, an ordinance adopting the City of Blue Springs Capital Improvements Program for fiscal years 2012-13 through 2017-18.
Move the bill be approved on its first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Second reading of Bill Number 4225, an ordinance adopting the City of Blue Springs Capital Improvements Program for fiscal years 2012 through 13 through 2017-18.
Move the bill be approved on its second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance number.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion? Roll call?
Councilman Livesey.
Aye.
Councilman Fowler.
Aye.
Councilman Carter.
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson.
Aye.
Councilman Bowerman.
Aye.
Councilman Cabell.
Aye.
Carried unanimously, giving it ordinance number 4402.
Next, we have a public hearing amending a section of the Unified Development Code. Mr. Johnson.
Your Honor, I'd like to introduce one exhibit for public hearing UDC T 612-3486. It includes City Council information form with form from City Attorney Bob McDonald, memorandum dated July 9, 2012, to Planning Commission with attachments and F date of publication as advertised in Examiner, June 23, 2012. These are all the exhibits I have to offer.
Okay, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Your Honor, and Councilman. Before this evening is a proposal to modify rear setback and side yard setback requirements for accessory structures only. The amendment would change those from 8 feet to 4 feet. Again, this is amending the Unified Development Code regarding accessory structures. Included in your packet was some information on what other municipalities are doing in the metro area. This was originally brought up at a council work session last August following a failed variance request by a property owner in June of last year. And there's been a host of internal discussions since then, and staff has provided this revised language for your consideration here tonight. Planning Commission did review this, held their public hearing last week, and is recommending approval unanimously, vote of 9-0, to move forward from the 8-foot setback to 4 feet. Mr. McDonald has some background and explanation provided in your council information form for some additional information. Also attached is the memorandum that staff provided to the Planning Commission. In addition to that, and finally, is a serviceable drawing from Mr. McDonald identifying kind of a typical setback scenario, looking at, I don't say worst case scenario, but looking at a property, single-family property that would be located on the corner of intersecting roads. So you can see what some of those setbacks would be, and this would referencing a single-family zoning district, SF7, and you can see just kind of the area in question that would be applicable to this zoning change, or excuse me, this code change. With that, I'll certainly stand for any questions.
Are there questions of Mr. Allen? Seeing none?
Yep.
Councilman Fowler?
Yeah, I don't know whether this is really a question more than a comment. One of the things that's going to come up in this ordinance is height, and there's not going to be any change to it, but it's height, no accessory structure, and I guess think about an outbuilding that's 4 feet from the property line there. No accessory structure shall exceed the maximum height standards of the underlying district, which basically means if you could build a 3-story house.
16 feet is the typical height restriction for most
Okay.
single-family zoning.
For single-family only.
Right, and I apologize, Councilman, I'd have to look
And I,
more specifically in the code to see what
sometimes the
other options are.
2-story sheds are a bit odd looking out there like that, you know. I mean, I've seen that comment over the years, but one-story shed is okay, but 2 of them going up that close to the fence line, it's just kind of a little awkward sometimes. So I'll just throw that out there.
Your Honor.
Okay. Any other comments or
Yes,
questions?
Your Honor, I have a
Councilman
question.
Cabell?
As we consider this, I know we settled on 4 feet. but did staff look at all as to what possible unintended consequences there would be in regards to moving this setback closer to the property line? Are we comfortable with what we're doing here in that regard, or is there anything that we should be thinking about?
Well, Your Honor and Councilman Quibell, I think Mr. McDonald's drawing kind of gives you hopefully a good aerial picture of what that might look like. Again, it is going from 8 feet to 4 feet. It's still, in terms of like the building code, for example, minimum setback from structure to structure is 5 feet. So it would still provide a minimum of 8 feet between, again, just accessory structures, not, principal structures that, as Councilman Fowler noted, would be, much higher, much bigger, larger square footage and such.
So there's a separation standard of 5 foot?
Yes, minimum for building code, and again, the zoning code here would provide 8 feet. So there still would be that
Okay.
in excess of the minimum.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions or
Your Honor.
comments? Councilman Carter?
Well, obviously, we've been dealing with this for a year, and it comes from a constituent who raised a comment, or actually, he tried to get a variance and he was denied. And so we've studied this thing for a year. We've talked about it for a year. And Councilman Quibell raised a question that I was going to raise anyway. So 5 feet is the building-to-building distance? Am I
Yes.
saying that right?
Right, in the building code.
Okay. So we are proposing to go from 8 feet to 4 feet. And is there any reason why we settled on 4 other than it's an arbitrary number that we could all agree on?
It is somewhat, I guess, middle of the road, consistent with some of the other neighboring communities. Kansas City, Missouri, for example, does have 4 feet. Green Valley has 5 feet. Overland Park has 3 feet. So it's kind of in the middle of some of those various setbacks.
Well, the gentleman in question has some other issues which we've also dealt with in the course of this past year. So not speaking specifically to him, but in my own unscientific survey of District 1, I find that outbuildings or sheds are basically built right next to the fence. I don't have one in my yard, but people who do tend to build them right next to the fence. And I don't know whether that's the property line or not. So you're saying that we could, and stay within the code, go down to as low as 2.5 feet and still maintain 5 feet separation?
In terms of the building code,
Right.
yes.
Is there any other reason why we couldn't do that?
Aesthetics, access for maintenance, for example, I know.
Well, aesthetics, I mean, if you do my unscientific survey, you'll see that it's already being done.
Sure, and as Councilman Fowler noted, and I should clarify too, I was looking here at the code, the wonders of technology here, 35 feet.
Yeah.
I apologize, 16 feet is obviously about half that, but 35 feet is SF7. I guess that would be the only other concern, is that you'd have 2 buildings perhaps up to 35 feet in height in the backyard, only 5 feet apart.
But as a practical matter, most of these buildings are one-story buildings, right?
Yeah, they are, but occasionally some people will build different, so.
I may put a 3-story building in my backyard. That answers my
legal.
question.
Sure.
It's legal.
Any other questions or comments? Any other questions or comments?
Yeah,
Councilman Fowler?
Hearing the concern over there about going maybe to 2.5 feet versus 4 feet, I'm comfortable with the 4 feet for now. If we want to come back and change it later, then come back and change it later. I think it comes back to aesthetics, and I think 4 is a good cut from 8 feet, so.
One other question, is this drawing to scale?
I think Mr. McDonald would admit he is an attorney rather than a... Right.
I'm just trying to figure out what
Any other comments or questions? Not, we'll take it to the
All right,
public.
thank you.
Anyone in the audience like to speak in support of? In support of? In opposition to? Opposition to? We'll close this public hearing. Anyone like to introduce it?
I'll introduce it, Your Honor.
Okay.
First reading of Bill Number 4226, an ordinance amending Section 405030C of the Code of Ordinances, City of Blue Springs, Missouri, concerning the setback requirements for structures that are accessory structures.
Move the bill be approved on its first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, Your Honor.
Councilman Carter?
Based on the discussion that we just had, I would like to offer an amendment that we go with 2.5 feet as opposed to 4. I mean, I hear what Councilman Fowler is saying, that it's, you know, it's a cut at this point, we can come back and address it later, but 8 feet to 4 feet to me seems arbitrary. Doesn't help anyone currently, because as again, my unscientific study shows, most of these sheds are right up against fences anyway. All it does is put into the code that, you know, if you want to build something in the future, you can't build it anywhere from, 4 feet in. So I would offer an amendment that we take it to 2.5 feet.
Okay, Councilman Carter has offered an amendment to take it from 4 to 2.5. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I will second it.
Okay, we have a second. Is there any discussion before we vote on it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Councilman Fowler.
Going along with your scientific study, if it is 0 feet now, the 2.5 feet is not going to help them either. You're saying 4 feet doesn't help them, well, 2.5 feet doesn't help them either then.
Well, 2.5 feet gives you the 5 feet separation between buildings as the code calls for.
Are they going to go move theirs 2.5 feet? Or are they going to move them 4 feet? Probably not. So,
Okay. Councilman Levesey.
I have a question based on that. Regardless of what we change the code to currently, does the structures that exist now that are not in compliance with the code, do they get grandfathered in? How would that work?
Mr. McDonald.
I mean,
They don't get grandfathered in,
because
but
they're
they,
outside of code now anyway.
well, if they were 2.5 feet, I mean, if you change it to 4, if they were more than 4, it'd be okay.
Sure, okay,
So, but it's not grandfathered, they've just been made legal, so.
gotcha.
Any other comments? Because it does not become an issue until one of your neighbors turn you in. We don't send people out looking for it, so.
Well, and, what I would say at this point is, as Councilman Clavell knows, when we went to survey Mr. Romeo, we'll just get his name into the record, the neighbor who turned him in's shed was right up next to the fence.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to change the proposal from 4 feet to 2.5. So I don't have to guess if it was, let's roll call this.
Okay, Councilman Fowler,
and this is just on the amendment,
On the
correct?
amendment,
Yeah.
on the amendment.
No.
Councilman Carter,
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson,
Aye.
Councilman Bowerman,
Aye.
Councilman Cabell,
No.
Councilman Levesey.
Aye.
That carries.
4-2?
Yes.
4-2, so the amendment
Carries.
carries. Now, are we ready
Second
to?
reading?
Did we do the
All
first?
right, let's see.
Well, we didn't do the first.
You were on first reading.
Still on
as
the first
amended,
reading,
so you
yep,
need to
first reading as
do
amended.
first yes, you need to vote on that
Okay,
as
so
amended.
all in favor, as amended, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
No. Aye.
Okay,
So it's 5-1.
5-1.
All right. So-
Somebody voted aye, same sign, aye.
Yeah,
He
Councilman-
said same sign.
Same
so-
sign, he said aye.
Yeah,
Right,
I
he said,
said
right.
no,
mhm.
okay.
So it's
I didn't
5-1.
hear who said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am opposed.
Second reading of Bill Number 4226 as amended, an ordinance amending Section 405030C of the Code of Ordinances, City of Blue Springs, Missouri concerning setback requirements for structures that are accessory structures.
Move the bill be approved on its second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance
Is there
number.
a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Carter,
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson.
Aye.
Councilman Bowerman,
Aye.
Councilman Cabell,
Aye.
Councilman Levesey,
Aye.
Councilman Fowler.
No.
Carried with a vote of 5-1, giving it ordinance number 4403.
Next, we have introduction and reading of Bill 4227.
I'll introduce it, Your Honor.
Okay.
First reading of Bill Number 4227, an ordinance approving the final plat for Bagel Plat, part of the southeast corner of the northeast corner, Section 31, TWP 49, Range 30, City of Blue Springs, Jackson County, Missouri.
Move the bill be approved on its first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Second reading of Bill Number 4227, an ordinance approving the final plat for Bagel Plat, part of the southeast corner of northwest quarter, Section 31, TWP 49, Range 30, City of Blue Springs, Jackson County, Missouri.
Move the bill be approved on its second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance number.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Councilman Edmondson.
Aye.
Councilman Bowerman,
Aye.
Councilman Cabell,
Aye.
Councilman Levesey,
Aye.
Councilman Fowler,
Aye.
Councilman Carter.
Aye.
Carried unanimously, giving it ordinance number 4404.
Next, we have introduction and reading of Bill 4228.
I'll introduce it, Your Honor.
Okay.
First reading of Bill Number 4228, an ordinance approving the final plat for Duncan Corner, a tract of land being part of Government Lot 1 in the northwest fractional quarter of Section 30, Township 49, North, Range 30 West, in the city of Blue Springs, Jackson County, Missouri.
Move the bill be approved on its first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Second reading of Bill Number 4228, an ordinance approving the final plat for Duncan Corner, a tract of land being part of the Government Lot 1 in the northwest fractional quarter of Section 30, Township 49, North, Range 30 West, in the city of Blue Springs, Jackson County, Missouri.
Move the bill be approved on its second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance number.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Councilman Bowerman,
Aye.
Councilman Quayle,
Aye.
Councilman Levisay.
Aye.
Councilman Fowler,
Aye.
Councilman Carter,
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson.
Aye.
Carried unanimously, giving it ordinance number 4405.
Before we introduce the, ask for an introduction and reading of Bill 4229, this is a result of Pastor Sally Haynes coming to us and talking about Vacation Bible School and a number of events that churches have. And so Councilman Bowerman and Councilman Carter and staff and I sat in and we had a discussion about it. And so what you're seeing tonight being proposed is a result of that meeting, to try to reach a compromise and to be able to allow churches and to be able to advertise for special events. So that being said, who would like to introduce it?
I will, Your Honor.
Okay.
First reading of Bill Number 4229, an ordinance amending Sections 501070B, 6B, related to the banner, building, and other temporary signs, and 50107016A, related to the special event sign to increase the number of days the banner can be displayed per year and to increase the number of days before a special event that the special event sign may be displayed.
Move the bill be approved on its first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, Your Honor.
Councilman Fowler?
How does this affect things other than churches? We were talking about Vacation Bible School, but how does special events?
Basically, we cannot make a difference. It basically opens it up for everyone.
It applies to everyone,
Right.
not just not-for-profits or churches.
Right.
So,
Answer? Okay.
yep.
Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Second reading of Bill Number 4229, an ordinance amending Section 501070B, 6B, related to the banner, buildings, and other temporary signs, and 501070I6A, related to special event sign to increase the number of days the banner can be displayed per year and to increase the number of days before a special event that the special event sign may be displayed.
Move the bill be approved on its second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance
Is
number.
there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Councilman Quayle,
Aye.
Councilman Levisay.
Aye.
Councilman Fowler,
Aye.
Councilman Carter,
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson.
Aye.
Councilman Bowerman.
Aye.
Carried unanimously, giving it ordinance number 4406.
Before Councilman Quayle introduced the next one, this one is a result of Councilman Quayle reaching out because of a constituent had approached him about the noise ordinance, and I asked the Public Safety Board to vet this, and they did vet it, and they came back with this recommendation. And Chairman Eckert is in the audience tonight that came back with that recommendation with the committee. So that being said, we'll accept your introduction.
I will introduce it, Your Honor.
Okay.
First reading of Bill Number 4230, an ordinance amending Chapter 230, noise control of the Code of Ordinances, City of Blue Springs, Missouri, concerning regulation of noise within the City of Blue Springs.
Move the bill be approved on its first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Second reading of Bill Number 4230, an ordinance amending Chapter 230, noise control of the Code of Ordinances, City of Blue Springs, Missouri, concerning regulation of noise within the City of Blue Springs.
Move the bill be approved on its second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance number.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Your Honor.
Yes, Councilman Quayle.
I just want to thank the Public Safety Advisory Board for their work on this and for making sure that it was a good change based on the requests that we had from citizens. So, thank you.
Good. Thank you. Any other comments? Roll call?
Councilman Levisay.
Aye.
Councilman Fowler.
Aye.
Councilman Carter.
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson.
Aye.
Councilman Bowerman.
Aye.
Councilman Quayle.
Aye.
Carried unanimously, giving it ordinance number 4407.
That brings us to mayoral announcements. I want to thank the citizens of Blue Springs, fire department, city staff, because we did have a successful 4th of July celebration. We had a public display at PV Stadium that went very well. I didn't hear nearly as many fireworks going off this year as I have in the past, and I don't know if that was a sign of people just being more cautious. But I want to thank people that were very cautious and smart and respected the will and wishes of others. So, next thing is Thoughts Stipenda. Tonight comes from John Ruskin. The highest reward for a person's toil is not what they get for it, but what they become by it. Next brings us to visitors. I don't have any visitors appearance form. The one I had, the person is already gone, so we accept a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, aye? Aye. All same sign. We adjourn.